Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are diving into a stack of sources today, and they're all tackling this, well, this huge and often really contradictory idea, development.
Hmm?
We all want a better life, that's natural. But when we talk about a whole country, about its progress, why do the official numbers, the statistics, often feel so disconnected from what people are actually experiencing?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it? That's the tension. We tend to grab onto economic figures, usually income, as the main measure.
Right, the money.
Exactly. But what we want to do in this deep dive is move beyond just counting rupees or dollars. We want to understand the real quality of life and, crucially, whether any progress we do make is actually sustainable.
And that conflict you mentioned, it pops up immediately. You just have to look at, say, a classic example in India, a big dam project.
Oh, absolutely. From one perspective, maybe an industrialist or the government, that dam looks like pure progress. Cheap electricity, fuel for industry, economic growth,
Money flowing.
money flowing. But that very same project, that progress, can be incredibly destructive for another group. We see it again and again with tribal communities, the Adivasi people.
Like in the Narmada Valley.
Precisely. They get displaced from lands they've lived on for generations. Their idea of development might be completely different. Maybe small check dams for their own irrigation, preserving their way of life. It's not about grid power for cities.
So one group's dream is another's nightmare.
And when development for one means destruction for another, you realize national development isn't some single agreed-upon thing. It's messy. It's contested.
Okay, so let's dial it back a bit. Let's start with individuals. Personal goals. Obviously, people want material things. Better income, decent wages, fair prices for crops if they're farmers. That seems straightforward.
It does, and it's important, but our sources really emphasize that the non-material goals are just as vital, sometimes even more so. Things money can't directly buy.
Like what, specifically?
Well, things like equal treatment, freedom, a sense of security, respect from others. These are fundamental human desires.
You can't put a price tag on feeling safe or respected.
Exactly. Or think about relationships, friendships. They're crucial for a good life, but you won't find them factored into GDP calculations, will you?
Not at all. And sometimes these non-material goals, these aspirations, they actually clash, don't they? Even within a family.
Oh, definitely. There's a great example in the sources about a young woman from a well-off urban family. Her aspiration is for equality, for the same freedom and opportunities as her brother.
Okay.
And part of that for her means sharing household chores. He should do his share too.
Makes sense. But I can see where this is going.
Right. Her brother might very well resent this. His development, or let's say his comfortable status quo, feels threatened. Her goal requires a change, maybe even a perceived sacrifice from him.
So her development and his development are in direct conflict.
Precisely. And if
Sure.
that kind of conflict can happen so easily within one home, imagine scaling that up.
Yeah.
Trying to find a common path for, 1.4 billion people in India?
It makes the idea of national development seem almost impossibly complex. How do you decide which path is fair? Which path is just? Especially when goals collide.
That's the perpetual challenge for any government, isn't it? Finding that fair and just path that ideally benefits the most people or at least harms the fewest.
And sometimes the pursuit of development by one group, maybe a powerful one, has devastating consequences that spill over, even across borders. That Abidjan incident in Ivory Coast is, well, it's horrifying.
It's a stark reminder, yes. You had this multinational company dealing in petroleum and metals. To save costs, basically, they contracted some local operators to dispose of toxic waste from their ship. Highly toxic stuff.
And dispose meant?
It meant dumping it openly near where people lived.
Unbelievable, the consequences.
Catastrophic. 7 people died directly, 20 ended up hospitalized, and something like 26,000 people needed treatment for poisoning symptoms, skin problems, nausea, breathing difficulties. Just awful.
So that's development for the company, maximizing profit, minimizing disposal costs, directly causing destruction and death for the local population.
Exactly. It's development for one being destruction for the other. And it highlights why just looking at a company's profits or even a country's overall income tells you so little about the real human impact.
Which brings us right back to that traditional metric, income. For a long time, it's been the king. The basic idea being, if a country's income goes up, people can buy more stuff, therefore life is better. Simple.
It's a simple logic, and it's been dominant. The standard way to compare countries using this logic is per capita income, PCI. You just take the total national income, the whole pie.
And divide it by the number of people.
Yep. Total income divided by total population. And institutions like the World Bank use this very criterion to put countries into boxes.
Right. And
Yep.
according to the 2023 data they used, your high income or rich, if your PCI is over what, about 63,400 US dollars a year?
Correct. And India. We fall into the low middle income category. Our PCI is around 10,030 US dollars per annum based on that data.
So PCI gives us a number, a way to compare.
It does. It's a starting point. But, and this is a huge but, the major flaw is that this average figure can hide enormous differences within the country. It masks inequality.
Ah, the classic problem with averages. Let's use that simple example from the sources, the two imaginary countries, country A and country B.
Right. Both have, say, 5 citizens. And let's imagine, for the sake of argument, they have the exact same average monthly income. Let's say 10,000 rupees.
Okay, same average. But what's happening inside?
In country A, the income is spread out pretty evenly. Everyone earns somewhere around that 10,000 rupee mark, maybe 9,500, 10,000, 10,500, like that. Quite equitable.
Okay, sounds relatively stable. Now, country B.
Country B is very different. You have 4 citizens who are earning maybe just 500 rupees a month, barely surviving.
Wow.
But the 5th citizen, they're earning a huge amount, say 48,000 rupees a month.
So you add those up, divide by 5.
And you get the same average, 10,000 rupees. Identical to country A on paper.
But nobody in their right mind would say country B is as developed or offers as good a quality of life as country A, surely.
Absolutely not. You'd choose country A any day, wouldn't you? It offers more security, more fairness. People aren't living in extreme poverty next to extreme wealth.
So the average income completely failed to tell us the real story there. It hid the massive disparity in country B.
Exactly. It shows why relying only on income as a measure of development is deeply flawed. It tells you nothing about distribution.
And that leads us nicely into the next big point from the sources. Even if you do have money in your pocket, it can't buy everything you need for a genuinely good life.
That's a crucial argument. Your personal income can't, for example, guarantee you breathe clean air. It can't ensure the medicines you buy aren't fake or adulterated. It can't protect you by itself from infectious diseases.
Those things require something more collective.
Precisely. They require collective provision. Public facilities, public services, infrastructure that works for everyone. Things the society provides together.
And this is where comparing states within India becomes really revealing. Let's take Haryana and Kerala.
Yes, a classic comparison used in the sources. If you look purely at per capita income, Haryana comes out on top. Its PCI was around, what, 2,64,000 rupees?
Yeah, Oris, 2,064,729 according to the table referenced. Kerala was lower, Rs 2,034,405. So based on income alone, Haryana looks more developed.
Looks richer, yes. But now let's switch the lens. Let's look at a crucial indicator of public health and well-being, the infant mortality rate, or IMR.
That's the number of babies who die before their first birthday, for every 1,000 born alive, a really basic measure of a society's health system.
And the difference is staggering. In high-income Haryana, the IMR was 28,
28 deaths per 1,000 births.
whereas in lower-income Kerala, the IMR was just 6.
6. That's less than a quarter of Haryana's rate, almost 3 times lower in Kerala.
Yeah. It's a massive difference. Think about the human reality behind those numbers. The pain of parents losing a child, happening far more often in the richer state. And this is decades after independence. It tells you money isn't translating into basic survival capabilities there.
So what did Kerala do right?
Well, Kerala has a long history of investing heavily in public health and education systems, making sure basic health care and schooling are accessible to pretty much everyone. That collective provision works.
It shows that effective public facilities can achieve better life outcomes even with a lower average income.
Absolutely. Money in the state treasury is one thing. Effective delivery of essential services is another.
And we see a similar story with education, right? Looking at school attendance.
Yes, if you look at the net attendance ratio for secondary school, that's kids aged 15 to 17 actually attending classes.
Okay.
In Kerala, it's incredibly high, 94%. Almost everyone in that age group is in school.
And compare that to, say, Bihar.
In Bihar, according to the data shown, the attendance ratio was only 69%.
So almost a third of teenagers, 15 to 17-year-olds in Bihar, are not in secondary school.
That's right. A huge chunk of the young population missing out on crucial education. Again, it proves that just having a certain level of state income doesn't automatically mean people have access to basic facilities like good schools or healthcare. The state needs to actively provide those capabilities.
So income alone is flawed. We need public facilities. If we want a broader picture, a more global comparison, what do we use instead of just PCI?
Well, recognizing the limitations of income, the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, came up with a different measure. It's called the Human Development Index, or HDI.
HDI, okay, what does that measure?
It tries to capture human capabilities more directly. It combines three key dimensions. First, health, which they measure using life expectancy at birth.
How long people can expect to live.
Exactly. Second, education, looking at things like years of schooling. And third, yes, it does include income using gross national income per capita, but it's only one part of the index.
So health, education, and income combined, a more rounded picture.
Much more holistic, yes. It gives a better sense of the actual life opportunities available to people in a country.
And we look at India through the lens of HDI. How do we stack up globally? The results can be a bit surprising.
It can be quite sobering, actually. In recent rankings, India was placed 134th out of 193 countries.
134th. That doesn't sound great.
It's not. And what's often highlighted is that some of our smaller neighbors actually perform significantly better on the HDI, even if their income levels aren't necessarily higher.
Like Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka is a prime example. They consistently rank much higher than India on the HDI. Their rank was 78 in the data shown, way ahead of us across the board, health, education, and income combined.
Wow. And it's not just Sri Lanka, is it?
No. Even countries like Bangladesh and Nepal, which have a lower gross national income per capita than India, meaning they are poorer on average in pure economic terms,
Yes.
they actually outperform India on some key indicators within the HDI. Take life expectancy at birth. Bangladesh's life expectancy was cited as 73.7 years. Nepal's was also higher than India's. India's life expectancy was around 67.7 years in that dataset.
So people in Bangladesh, despite lower average income, can expect to live significantly longer than people in India, on average.
That's what the data suggests. Again, it points towards the impact of public health initiatives. Perhaps better access to basic necessities, factors beyond just the GNI figure. It's clear proof that focused public investment works.
Okay, so we've established development is more than just money. It involves health, education, equality. But there's another huge question looming, isn't there? Sustainability.
The elephant in the room. Even if a country manages to achieve high scores on all these development indicators today, is the way they achieved it sustainable in the long run? Can future generations enjoy the same level of development?
And sources are pretty clear that scientists have been warning about this for a long time.
Decades, yes. The current models of development, particularly those heavily reliant on resource extraction and consumption, might simply not be viable long term.
Let's talk specifics. Groundwater in India.
A critical issue. Groundwater is technically a renewable resource. Rain replenishes it. But the problem is overuse. We're pumping it out much, much faster than it can naturally recharge.
Especially in agricultural areas.
Exactly. Particularly in the agriculturally prosperous regions, the sources mention Punjab, Western UP. These are our breadbaskets, but they're facing severe groundwater depletion.
The figures mentioned are quite alarming. Something like 300 districts in India reporting water levels dropping by over 4 meters in just 20 years.
4 meters in 2 decades. Think about that. We're literally draining our future water supply for current agricultural output. It's a classic case of undermining our natural capital for short-term economic gain.
That's unsustainable development right there.
Absolutely. And then there are the non-renewable resources, things that once they're gone forever.
Like crude oil.
Crude oil is the big one. It fuels so much of modern industrial society, but it's finite. The sources cite estimates that the world's known reserves might only last another, 47 years or so at current rates of extraction?
Less than 50 years. That's within many people's lifetimes today.
It is. And for a country like India, which relies heavily on importing crude oil to meet its energy needs.
We don't have large reserves of our own.
We don't. So the depletion of global stocks, combined with the almost certain rise in prices as supplies dwindle, poses a massive economic and developmental challenge for us. It ties our future stability directly to a finite global resource.
So this brings everything together, doesn't it? We started with conflicting individual goals, looked at the flaws in income metrics, saw the importance of public health and education.
And ended up facing the hard reality that our current path might be leading us toward resource exhaustion.
So, for you listening, what does this all really mean? We've journeyed from that clash between the brother and sister over chores, to the Adivasi community facing displacement, to the shocking data from Haryana and Kerala, and finally, to these global warnings on water and oil.
And the clear takeaway is that genuine development can't just be measured by the size of the national wallet. It has to encompass the health, the education, the security, the sense of fairness and respect for all citizens.
And critically, as you said, whether that progress is just temporary, borrowed from the future. That quote, often attributed to Gandhi, keeps coming to mind.
The Earth has enough resources to meet the needs of all, but not enough to satisfy the greed of even one person. It really puts the challenge into perspective.
It does. The debate on what development truly means and how to achieve it justly and sustainably is far from over. It's maybe the defining challenge.
It requires constant questioning, constant vigilance. We need to keep asking the hard questions.
So if the old metrics like GDP and PCI clearly are enough, if they don't warn us about depleting water tables or running out of oil, maybe the final thought for you to ponder is this. What new measure, what revolutionary new way of thinking about progress should we demand to truly gauge development for the next generation?
That's the critical question we need to start answering. Now,